Hello and welcome to the Rewilding the Artist podcast, focusing on a culture of care in the arts, a place of inspiration, supporting you to bring a culture of care into your environment, whether you're a freelance practitioner or arts organisation. I'm your host, visual artist and changemaker, Gaia Redgrave. Today, I would like to welcome Tomos Hopkins, Welsh language tutor, folk group leader and volunteer for the Samaritans, and all-round wonderful human being to the Rewilding the Artist podcast to speak about his approach to accessibility in his work. So welcome, Tomos, to the podcast.
Oh, diolch yn fawr, Gaia. That's such a bendigedig introduction. So
Well, I've been looking forward to speaking to you or with you because I really want to understand your approach to making your adult Welsh learning classes so successful in the form of accessibility, and maybe a little bit about your philosophy behind it.
Yes.
But would you like to first start by telling us a little bit about yourself before going into that?
Yes, that's no problem. So I've been a Welsh tutor for almost 10 years now. So yeah, I first started back in September 2014. So obviously back in those days, it was only classroom-based lessons that we provided.
Yeah.
So I did that with adults across all ages. Then obviously during the pandemic, we transferred to online classes using Zoom. So that created different things for us, different ways of doing the classes, but a challenge nonetheless, but a challenge that I hope that as tutors we've managed to do. So yeah, it's been great the past few years, learning new technology and new ways how to do it. But I'm really lucky. I enjoy all aspects of my job, doing different things and meeting new people and spreading Cymraeg, the Welsh language, and the culture, something I feel very passionate about. I'm very fortunate that I'm a Welsh speaker and that I can share that with people.
That's fantastic that you're so that you love doing your work so much. And I must say that I'll share with people how we know each other.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I actually signed up for one of Tomos's classes when it went online, because the classroom environment, as somebody who is neurodivergent and has sensory processing difficulties, was a very difficult place for me. I tried one class and it was just too much for me to manage. So when it went online, I thought, oh, I'll try again. And it was Tomos that was teaching the class. So that's how we know each other. And yes, we've had challenges, but it's been a really interesting journey from my point of view, because Tomos has worked very, very hard to enable accessibility, not just for myself, but for other people as well. So it's been a really interesting process. How have you felt about it, and what have you brought in to enable things to be so accessible?
Yeah, well, it certainly has been a process, and I think, and obviously with having new students learning in that way, it definitely brought different challenges. And I think, you know, people that come to a class as an adult or come to any event as an adult, there's that degree of vulnerability there, isn't there? You're coming to a brand new environment and you're meeting new people. So you're trying to be, as somebody that's leading that, you're trying to make it as accessible as you can. But then the more you get to know people, everybody's different and they require different accessibility needs, which is something I've learned from you being in my class, of course. So what I think the main thing we've tried to do is make sure, obviously, with the Zoom technology, that the background noise isn't affecting the learning, you know, that everybody's learning their technology. At first, I remember the first few sessions we did on Zoom, it was the muting business, please mute, and people unmuting and such. So there wasn't that noise affecting the disruption of the class. And I think, you know, people have gone better with that, and the technology was new for everybody at the beginning. So hopefully it has improved by now, sort of, how are we, 3-4 years in? And obviously something that's come to prominence recently is the use of non-gendered pronouns, which is something as a language tutor we have to address, as of course we're learning the third person. And you know, the course books that we use have been adapted now to use the third person with he and she and they. So that's something that, you know, we want to make more accessible for people as well. So there was one member in our class that raised that issue and brought it to prominence. So obviously I went back to the National Centre who run the courses for us and mentioned this. So they are taking that into consideration in the future now, because of course, when you're learning a language, you want to be able to express yourself in the way and people to refer to you in the correct pronouns. So it's certainly a learning curve that we're still learning and adapting for people with non-gendered pronouns, and of course with accessibility needs like yourself.
I think it's wonderful that you're embracing things like this, and it does make it accessible. And it's been quite a unique experience, because quite often there is exclusion, not from the point of view of not wanting to include, it's more from the point of view of, oh, how do I do this? I haven't got a concept as to how I do this. And as we've heard, it's not simply down to disability either. It's for everybody. Inclusion is for everybody, irrespective of lived experience.
Exactly.
So for you to go back to the Welsh Language Centre,
Yes.
and to champion that, I think is just wonderful, because not in every situation does that happen.
No.
And I can hear from you saying that there are changes being made to the course book, that has been embraced there as well. And that's a national thing, is it?
Yes, that's a national thing. So the course that I teach is a national course run by the National Centre for Learning Welsh. So we have a curriculum of books beginning from entry level, right at the beginning, mynediad, all through. So obviously the first time when you do the third person, it was always just he and she. He would do something or she's going. But now the they section is included with the third person, which as it should be now, because of course some people want to be recognised as that. So yeah, the National Centre are very, very happy to learn about more people and make it more accessible for people, of course, because language changes all the time as people change. And I hope, you know, that me saying that that's experience has happened in our class, that's made a difference, you know, for the future, and make people realize, yeah, we can change and adapt things to suit people. And I think that's where we're fortunate, that we can adapt things, and hopefully that makes it more accessible for everybody then to feel welcomed, because the whole thing is we want people to dysgu Cymraeg and embrace this amazing language Cymraeg that I'm so fortunate to be a tutor of, and welcome so many people in. I think maybe in the past, you know, you think, oh yeah, people thought it was going back to school sort of thing. It's like going back to school, and there's some bad vibes or bad memories of those experiences. But you know, as soon as they come to the class, hopefully they realize it's nothing like that at all.
I must say I was a little bit worried of being in what might be considered as a classroom environment learning a language again, because languages really weren't my thing at school. I had 5 years of French, 3 years of Latin, 1 year of ancient Greek, and I think I can remember about one centimetre, one sentence from ancient Greek. I can say something like the goddess hinders the soldiers,
Very handy phrase.
You're very, very useful. I can say the odd couple of bits in French. And Latin, I can chant the declensions. Couldn't tell you what they were though anymore. So to enter into a class where, I mean, I suppose this is different because I'm learning to communicate with people around me.
Yes.
Whereas with Latin and French and ancient Greek, I wasn't. I want to be able to communicate with people in the other language of this country, the original language of this country.
Yeah.
And a lot of people's first language. I would also love to be able to teach in Welsh with what I do and use a lot of Welsh in what I do. So it's really, really important for me to be part of the class, to be embraced with the difficulties I have in that environment have been absolutely fantastic. So I'd really like to thank you, Thomas, for that.
Yeah, well, it's my pleasure, of course.
For taking that on. So thinking about, you've told us about some practical things that you do, but I'm interested in really how you take that wider into the other things that you do. And maybe, I don't know if philosophy is the word, the philosophy behind it, but your sort of attitude and focus as an individual person and how you feel about inclusivity.
Yeah, well, it's always been important to me as a member of the queer community, of course. So I go to Pembrokeshire Pride every year and do various events with them. So it's always been a passion of mine to be inclusive, because obviously that's been something where queer people have been excluded from in the past. So
Absolutely.
I feel like if you don't make a stand for other people, then, you know, how would you deserve that for yourself? So it's always been a passion of mine to be, you know, include people and just be kind to people. And, you know, everybody has different stories and histories and life experiences, but I think I'm lucky in my position. I get to learn so much about people and what works for them and how they work, because we're all different, aren't we? And I think that's the amazing thing, isn't it? We all have lived different experiences, and in a way, as my job, I'm teaching people Cymraeg, but I learn so much about people as well, which is the amazing thing. There's a saying from a musical. I'm a fan of a bit of musicals, maybe, as you can tell. It's called The King and I don't know if you know that one, by Rodgers and Hammerstein. But one line she says in it is, if you become a teacher by your pupils, you are taught.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I think, you know, even though that's for a teacher and children, I think it's so true, or even more true, about being a tutor for adults, really, because most people are my age or older, so that life experience is there in a way. So I'm lucky in that way. So yeah, I'm like, hopefully you feel like a sort of a bridge, that you're welcoming them to the dysgu Cymraeg world. That's why I feel like it's part of my job. You know, I'm a marketing officer as well as part of my job. So in a way, I want to market that people can and do and can improve and dysgu Cymraeg and gain that confidence, really. So I think
makes me think of a slight tangent, actually. It makes me think of a friend of mine who also teaches in a completely different capacity, but teaches adults and children from very, very tiny to older adults. And his philosophy is that he always wants or aims for his students to be better than he is.
Yeah.
I think that's a really, really wonderful attitude. Doesn't put a limit on the students' learning.
Exactly. That's brilliant, isn't it? Because, you know, everybody can achieve so much greater than they think they can.
Yeah.
You know, and it's amazing to see that, because I see that as a tutor, but individuals, they sometimes don't see that for themselves. So yeah, there's no limit on anyone, is there?
Certainly with learning Welsh. I mean, I must say, I sit there thinking I'm really struggling with this, but you give me the positive information that I am actually progressing, and
Yeah,
I
yeah.
am, because I
Okay.
can hold a conversation now, be it a little broken in places, but can hold a conversation, and it's really wonderful. It's
Mm.
really wonderful. Going in, stepping into your folk group.
Mm.
Does this extend into your folk group as well? And I'm really quite intrigued with
Yeah.
what your concept of a folk group is.
Yeah, well, I suppose it's a choir as well. I suppose originally we were actually called a choir, but I feel now as we sing Welsh folk songs, that we are more of a folk singing group. So everybody who is a member are people that are dysgu Cymraeg, learning Welsh at various stages. Some have just started a couple of years ago. Some have been, learning for 10 years or more perhaps. So what we do is we learn traditional folk songs that if you grew up in a Welsh speaking school or community, you would learn anyway. Sort of they're just there, as part of our fabric. If you were going on a bus trip or a night down in the pub or something, they're there. So it's really the music or the folk. So that's why I call it a folk group, really. So we started in 2018, back then, and we do compete at the National Eisteddfod because there is a competition for adults that are learning Welsh, which is the wonderful thing. There's no that pressure that you're against people who are fluent speakers. So yeah, we've been doing it since then and entered the National Eisteddfod a few times, which has been a great experience, and sing at a local charitable events, really. So, to raise money for good causes when we can, and various food festivals around the county. So yeah, it's an amazing thing, singing. I've always been a member of a choir or a group since I was little, and it brings people together, and it really raises people's confidence in the use of their Cymraeg. They think, oh yeah, I can actually sing in Cymraeg and I can have a lot of fun doing it. So, we're a very light-hearted group. We have a lot of fun and laughter, really. So people say, oh, I can't sing. But I'm like, it doesn't matter. I want you to come and join us anyway. And everybody can sing. I'm not expecting people to be professional opera singers or anything, because I'm certainly not. But it's the pure enjoyment of it, and that you're learning through that process. So yeah, people tell me, oh, I couldn't come because I can't sing, but I'd like, come along and see how you go. And then in the end, they're like, I've really enjoyed this. And so singing is an amazing thing. It releases the endorphins. So when people sing, especially in a group, the feeling is amazing to get people singing all together. So I'm so fortunate I get to stand at the front and hear these people sing at me and have a lot of joy through it. So yeah, it's really fun. I really enjoy it. So it's great. Every Thursday I go have a sing song and we learn new songs, and we've got a few events coming up this year. So yeah, that's the thing. It's like we welcome everybody, despite whatever level of Welsh you're on, just or any singing ability, so yeah, and hopefully I make it fun and we have a good laugh at the same time.
I think I'm one of the people that said to you before that I can't sing. I sing in the key of Z, or I might have progressed to Q, So I'm seeing that maybe as a bit of a challenge or an invitation to come.
Yeah.
So have you found it important, due to specific members, obviously not mention any names or anything like that, specific members, to approach accessibility in a different way for your folk group at all?
Yeah, sometimes obviously some people, they're very much like they need to see the words on the copy, so have to embrace the different learning styles of people, and how they learn the songs, really. Some people just like to learn by ear, listen a few times. And also, I think, have we still got the title of The Joy of Herding Cats? Yeah. 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 for this.
We spoke about the joy
We
of
have,
herding cats,
but
didn't we? And I love that. So let's go
yeah,
with the joy of
we'll go
herding
with that.
cats.
So in a way, it's, as I'm sort of the leader, I'm sort of trying to make everybody come to events and start at the same time and come to practice. So there is a joy in that, because some people are better at timekeeping than others. Some people aren't. Sometimes I have to tell them 3 times what day the event's on or what time to come. So I think, I have to repeat myself a lot, which is fine, but it's the part of the process of the joy of herding cats, getting people together to do stuff. I suppose that can sometimes be the hardest thing, just getting people together and getting everyone's calendars, because life is busy, I accept that with everybody. So yeah, but that's my role, isn't it, to try and get the togetherness there. So hopefully by doing things different ways, giving different instructions and learning the songs in different ways, it makes it accessible for everybody. And I always try and be open. In every practice I go, is there a question? Or is there any bit you want to hear again? I think it's the openness as well. It's not like, this is my way and we have to do it this certain way. I don't think I get very far going, right, this is how we do it. We don't even follow sheet music, to be honest. We just learn them by ear. So it's not like we have to stick to one way. So I'm quite open to like, oh, somebody sings a harmony there, or somebody wants to do this differently. It's quite open, but I think that is the thing about working with people as well, that you should be open. You shouldn't be like a closed book and like, I am the leader, you do it this way, we sing it like this. Nobody does it. And the nature of folk singing as well, is that it should be quite organic, really.
It sounds like a very creative way of
Yeah,
working as well.
really.
It does, which
I get
is,
a lot of joy of, it's creative joy for me to choose the songs and see how it's going to work with the harmonies, and how the different people are going to react to those songs, and what songs people take to and what songs people don't. So it's like a creative process. Yeah, it certainly is.
so thinking about you've touched on some benefits to people, but thinking about your Welsh classes and your folk group, have you seen some specific real benefits to your students in relation to accessibility? And we have touched on a few things, so I didn't know if there was anything else specifically that springs to mind, or if it's a general
Yeah,
whole
I think
thing.
in general, it's the people's self-confidence that I can see hopefully is improving as they come to the class. They start their own community group by coming, to the classes each week, and the bonding there. And I think, once you've got over that barrier, it's amazing to see people gel. I think that's what is amazing, to see people build that community, whether it's in the classroom or in the choir, that they overcome that barrier of going, this is not for me, I'm not good enough. That's the thing we have a lot of adults. We think, oh, I'm not good enough. As children, we think, I'm just going to do it, don't we? We don't mind people judging us or something. But as an adult, we think, oh, I couldn't do that. I'm not good enough for that. I think we're all guilty. I'm guilty. I know we're all
Yeah,
guilty.
yeah,
But I think once
absolutely,
we overcome that
absolutely.
and we find our people, and it's amazing to see.
Yeah, I think, well, I've personally experienced it and I've observed it with other people. Certainly, if we're relating it to accessibility, if you
Mm.
find a place that is accessible to you, you find a place that is really welcoming to you and is happy to make adaptations to make it a space where you feel safe and comfortable and valued. Of course, that's going to improve your confidence as a human being. And it's such a wonderful thing to find. And you speak about finding your people. I speak about finding your tribe.
Yeah.
So a space that you fit and feel valued and is accessible. It's all rolled into one, isn't it?
Oh, certainly. Yeah. Because once you've found that, you can have that confidence, but it is about finding the people that are right for you. And sometimes you meet people you don't get on with, and you know, they are maybe a bit blinkered and they don't want to adapt, which happens, you know. Some people we can't change.
Mm. I
But
remember being told years ago now that I said, oh, I just don't do people. I like my alone time. I like quiet space. I like being away from people. Being neurodivergent, I need time away from people.
yeah.
However, this person said to me, you just haven't met the right people. And that is so true, because even though I think differently, I need my environment to be different to some people. When you meet the right people, these things just slot in place.
Yes.
And what somebody who is neurodivergent might need will also benefit other people as well. Other people who aren't neurodivergent love a quiet environment as well. So we're all different, and we can all benefit from these different things. But finding the right tribe enables it to happen. There's an analogy, if I can get that word out, after I find that very difficult to say, an analogy.
Yeah.
That I don't even know if it's an analogy. I've got that word out, so I don't even know if it's that. But we talk about wheelchair accessibility, and there are some places, due to the nature of the building and it being old, that aren't wheelchair accessible.
Mm.
And we fight for wheelchair accessibility. But, you know, everybody can use a slope. So I'm not talking about old buildings that can't be adapted.
Yeah.
But why put steps in that then reduces the accessibility? Because
Exactly.
a certain number of people, okay, maybe the majority of people that can use steps, but not everybody.
Exactly.
I'm going to put my neck on the line here, and I know I'm going to hear from people that say, actually, that's not true, but everybody can use a slope.
Well, that is true, isn't it?
Yeah,
And you know, people, you know, not to say that there's some disabilities there which aren't visual. You know, some
absolutely.
might have a health condition that isn't as visible as being in a wheelchair, but then maybe a different way of doing it would help them. But maybe some people aren't willing to say, "Oh, I prefer this way." So I think you, as you're such a champion of neurodiversity, at least what helps is that you're so open and that you tell people the accessibility needs that you need. It's harder for you, for somebody that's organizing, the people that don't say, I would prefer this or I would like this, because you don't know them. So in a way, you champion, you know, you have a voice and you're using it for the greater good in a way. And then, but some people don't. They just carry on and don't say anything. And what would help them maybe would help others, as you say, and be beneficial for more than one person.
Absolutely. And I do try. This is the aim of rewilding, is to try and make things different, try and raise awareness, try and offer inspiration for people to do things, and to make changes. So I'm hoping things will improve. There are a lot of amazing people out there doing things.
Yeah.
Obviously, it is not just little old me. There are lots and lots of people doing amazing things. And if we all speak up, we can spread the word of possibility, which is great. And support the people that don't feel comfortable, don't feel able to speak up about what they need, because we shouldn't feel that we have to share where we're
No,
at.
that's
Things
true.
should just be accessible.
They
We
shouldn't
shouldn't
they?
have to share.
No.
But you know, things are improving. Things
Yeah.
are improving with people like you that are very open-minded, willing to listen and understand and think, ah, I could do this, or can you tell me what might help?
Yeah, that's hopefully where I feel like I'm at, and hopefully that, you know, just natural human instincts. It's to have that openness and willing to adapt. I think that's hopefully we can, everybody can learn something from others.
I agree. And I think from doing a number of these podcasts now and speaking to a number of people in depth about accessibility, it just boils down to one thing, which is just being a nice person.
Yeah, I think, yeah,
It
that
is.
certainly does help.
Yeah, and that's really what it boils down to. Okay, yes, there are certain situations and pressures that may um, make things more difficult.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I understand that, but it does just come down to being a nice person.
Mm, no,
And I
certainly.
also must quantify it in another way as well. I always advocate meeting in the middle.
Yes, yes.
Definitely meeting in the middle, because there's often conflicting needs as well.
Mm.
So no one person should have priority to a space over the other person
No.
having inaccessibility.
It's give and take, isn't it? You know, when you're
Yeah.
working with other human beings, there is an amount of give and take. And I think if you're willing to do that, then there is a way of meeting in the middle, certainly, rather than being, this is my way, this is your way. You know, no one's going to collaborate or do anything if that's how people's attitudes are.
So do you think if you've managed to herd the cats into the middle, I think it's okay? If you see them all in the middle and not around the edges, you're all right.
Well, yeah, I think certainly that you've done something. You know, everybody does want to go maybe in different directions at a time, but if you can herd the cats into the middle, it's a great thing. It's an amazing thing, and then everybody benefits. Hopefully, that's the aim, isn't it? That everybody
Absolutely.
benefits
But
from it.
putting a twist on that, I think that the wild edges are also wonderful as well.
Yes,
And
certainly.
amazing things can come out of that too. Um,
Oh,
yeah,
certainly.
I like a bit of the wild edges.
Oh, certainly. Like I know that in the the singing group, I know they sometimes have conversations amongst themselves about things, issues, or maybe such as now we've got t-shirts. What they wanted to have t-shirts. So that conversation came from me, somebody overhearing a group talking about I want t-shirts. So sort of the why I sort of had to collect some of the wild edges and be like, okay, well, let's put this to everyone. Do we want t-shirts? In a way, where I had to keep one ear in and one ear out. But then it's in a way you've got people on the inside as well that you hear from. So yeah, the wild edges are great. If you can sort of tame them too, that's
Heard them.
them in a nice
Heard
way.
them. I
Yes.
think my wild edges would have been, well, actually, can we have long sleeve t-shirts so I can wear my base
Yes.
layer underneath it?
That's the thing. See, it's there is always going to be, once you put something out there, there is always going to be someone, well, actually I want this, or actually so yeah, that we are having t-shirts because they voted to have them. So so we're going from there.
I'm looking down my notes now. We have a list of possible things to speak about, and I think we've spoken about most of it at the moment. But so what I'm going to do is move forward and say to you, is there anything in relation to a culture of care that you would like to do in the future? What are your ambitions and ideas? What would you like to see happen?
Oh, that's a big question, isn't it?
It's an enormous
It's
question
a
and a
big
lot of
question.
questions in one go. So sorry
Mm.
about that, Thomas.
No,
You
that's
can
certainly big.
tease one thing out if you want to.
Yeah, I'm going to tease one thing. Well, about myself or the world in general, or
Either or both.
well, yeah, I certainly like to see more of the openness and understanding happen with every individual, somebody that leads, somebody who is a tutor or is an organization, certainly, because there's so many benefits from that. And you want you want to get people, to come to your event or your part of your organization and make it accessible for people by doing that, having that openness. So I'm still on that journey of learning more about people, because you never stop learning, you never stop. And just because like I'm a tutor that I teach people doesn't mean that I know everything. I always tell that people, just like You put yourself in somewhere in a position of I'm standing in front of people or online that you're that, but you're still on that journey too, in different
Absolutely.
ways, learning about yourself and learning about other people. So I think, you know, I'd love to see more of that openness, and I hope to continue with that, and the having those questions opening. What I think an analogy that I quite like is if you can imagine somebody else, yourself in someone else's shoes, what would that be like? You know, I always imagine myself in the first lesson on Mynediad entry level. What's that like to come to that first lesson when everyone's new and a whole new language? What's that like for people? So yeah, if we can try and imagine, you know, if you can walk a mile in someone else's shoes, I think there's sort of a saying, something like that. So that's an interesting concept, because, you know, some shoes are different to others. Some life experiences are different to others, you know. So yeah, still learning more, I think, and hopefully the world is as well, and adapting to learning more and having those changes.
Yeah, and that would be wonderful if that spread out further. It certainly would. So thinking about the openness, that leads to a certain kind of person and a certain kind of personal attitude.
Mm, mm,
So how do you think we could foster that to enable that to spread? That's a difficult question,
mm,
isn't it? I
mm.
don't know if you can answer that one.
It is
Maybe
a tricky
that's something
one,
that
isn't
needs
it?
just pondering on. I don't know. See if
Well,
you.
when what I think, as somebody that when we have new tutors coming and they do an interview or do a mock lesson, it's not whether they can teach a language to people, it's whether their personality is right for working with people. I think that's so important. You know, you can learn to be better at language skills and learn grammar and stuff like that, but you need that human connection. I think it's true anywhere across the arts. You know, you can be an amazing creative person and you can create amazing things. But if you want other people to participate or to collaborate, you do need that human skills.
Mm,
I think that's so important. And, you know, I love technology, don't get me wrong, but, you know, technology can hinder those human skills. Now we can hide on our phones or hide on our iPads, can't we? Which I know that some people need that quiet time for a moment, for times. But I think you do have to put yourself out there to be a people person a bit as well. And that's so important because people respond to that.
I think it also means different things for different people
Yeah,
as well,
certainly.
doesn't it? And again, I think we've come full circle to finding your tribe.
Exactly. You know, in the queer community, you have a queer ally, don't you? That
Mm,
allies, they're not necessarily in the queer community themselves, but they're an ally. So I suppose, in a way, is there such thing as a neurodiverse ally?
absolutely.
Isn't it? You know, it's the
Absolutely.
same
And for
principle, isn't it?
disability as well.
Any
Yeah.
disability. Yeah,
We
certainly.
talk a lot about allies. So there are a lot of similarities between the different communities. Okay, we separate ourselves into
Yeah,
these
we
different
do.
communities,
I know.
but there are so many things that are common. So we
Exactly.
talk about alloys. We talk about allies. We do. But we also talk about neurodivergent joy.
Yes.
I've spoken with people about queer joy as well.
Yeah. And the
Yeah,
reason I call it queer rather than all the letters, I feel queer represents it better for me
yeah.
rather than doing all the letters. Or I've heard rainbow people be used also, which I quite like.
Oh wow.
It's just
I
all colours.
haven't heard that one. That's
Isn't it
lovely.
nice? It's just all colours of the rainbow then. So there's no letter or anybody being, you know, out, you know, not mentioned. So yeah, I personally, I call myself queer personally. So I kind of say the queer community. But yeah, rainbow people is another one that is quite nice too, I think.
That's
All the
lovely.
colours,
I
all
really
the
like
colours
that.
there. Yeah. And it's colourful too, you know, if you like different colours as well.
Yeah,
Yeah, the allyship
wonderful.
is a great thing, I think, isn't it? If we can be an ally to somebody who is, I say, different or who has different life experiences from us, then that's a great thing, isn't it? That we can be an ally to somebody who has that.
It is. I think it helps us understand other people as well. which again reduces separation. I think it's wonderful that we find space within our own communities.
Yeah, certainly.
But also that we understand other communities, because we're all human beings. We're all part of the community of human beings.
That's what it boils down to, doesn't it? At the end of the day, that's what we all have in common, and that's what we're all trying to do our best at being as human beings.
Yeah.
So yeah, an ally to each other, or just to anybody really.
Yeah, wonderful. So we're drawing to the end of our conversation. And I know you've said about walking in other people's shoes.
Yeah.
So that may be the answer. So do you have any final words that you would like to impart as inspiration or a thought for others who maybe want to be more open and include people more effectively in classes or in groups or in community groups, but are struggling to do so, a sort of takeaway to enable them to move forward on that?
Yeah, I think so. I think having, obviously there are set times and things that need to be done, but I think having a degree of flexibility in life does help in regard to anything you do. So I think having that flexibility and that openness is something that I strive to be, and hopefully maybe everybody can hope to. But yeah, obviously I understand, I have a course book to tutor. I need to follow it and such like that. And, I need, there's deadlines in life and with anything, that you need to, but I think having that flexibility and that openness to understand individuals as well, rather than treat everybody one way. It's not one size fits all. That if we come with that attitude, one size fits all, it's not, is it really? We need to try and understand the individuals that we're trying to collect or herd together.
Yeah, and I was going to add on to the end of it, and the joy of herding cats.
The joy of herding cats, because I'm lucky there is a joy in it to me personally. I love it. That I get excited to think, oh, how is this going to work? Or what could, not anxious, but like, ooh, what could happen in this situation? Or are these people going to turn up at this time? Or there's a certain joy in it, really, which I'm lucky to be part of. And somebody has to put themselves out there and try and gather or lead it anyway. But yeah, that's a privileged position, I think. Very privileged.
Oh, that's wonderful, Thomas. Wow. Diolch yn fawr for your time today, and it's been wonderful speaking to you. I would like to thank you for talking to me today, and thank you from the bottom of my heart for being my Welsh tutor as well.
Oh, pleser mawr. Diolch yn fawr i ti. Diolch yn fawr.
This podcast sits within the Rewilding the Artist project, an innovative journey to equity and authentic self-expression, highly supported by the Arts Council of Wales Lottery Fund. This podcast can be found on Spotify and YouTube. You can find Rewilding the Artist on Instagram and further resources on the website. All links can be found in the description. Thank you for listening and enjoy the journey.